happy campers. I want to welcome you to Raising a Happy Camper podcast. I am here with Sasha Morozov, and I am super excited to talk about raising a happy camper. And we all know that raising a happy camper starts with what? A happy parent, right? So, Sasha, I would love for you to introduce yourself and talk about Sasha X Home and get started.
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you, Allison. I'm so excited for our conversation. And for those that may not be familiar, I am Sasha Morozov. I am a former executive and I have my master's in social work. So now I get to use my clinical skills to do something that I absolutely love, which is life coaching for moms that are killing it at work, but feel like they're failing at home, because I want them to feel like they have more time, less clutter, and habits for a peaceful life. Who doesn't want that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I've got my grown children, Sasha. So I look back and I'm like, where were you years ago when I could have really used some help? Being a former working mom, lawyer, track, and all of that stuff. It was definitely a challenge for me balancing, work and being a mom. So
Absolutely.
I'm still a mom, just not, I don't have to run home to the kiddos. So I'm excited to talk and, see how, and I believe that we can all benefit no matter what stage we are in life, right? From what you're going to say.
Absolutely. And you already touched on one of the main things that I speak about, which is the balance. I feel like society has us out there that there's this magical balance that one day, if we just cross everything off of our to-do list, we're going to have this perfect balance and we're going to be able to come home at 5 p.m. every day and nothing's going to get in the way and kids are going to be in bed by 8 and everything's going to be fine. But that's not reality. I really talk to my clients about the idea that what if you never get through your to-do list? What does that look like? Because the idea is that life is going to keep happening. There's never going to be this perfect balance, because guess what? Sometimes work's going to need you, and that's okay. I feel like we as women do not allow ourselves to say, you know what, I'm happy in my job, or I love my career. And I feel like that's so important. Why are we saying that? I hear all the time, I love my job, but I love my kids. I'm like, why can't both exist? Why can't both exist?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you 100%. They can exist. And there is a lot of, pressure to, make it all perfectly right. And, it's funny. I went to a program once and they gave us at the end this button, and the symbol of the button had 4 holes, and it represented like life, and how everything should, your life, your spirituality, your self, and your work, and how all of these things needed to be like perfectly balanced. But I was like, and I have this as a great representation and a reminder, but I think you're right. Like in some ways, that's just kind of impossible. Like there's going to be times when one is just going to take over the other, and to do it without guilt, I guess, or right.
Yes. Yes. Why isn't it okay if, even if our kids are sick and we have to miss work? We probably let ourselves slide on that one a lot more than, oh, there's a deadline, or there's an important presentation, or an out-of-town meeting. Mm-hmm. And the guilt that comes from that is probably a lot higher. But what I try to tell people, women in particular, is honestly the fact that you are making the best decision for your family right now. By working, if that's what you're choosing, you're really setting yourself and your family up for success in the long term. We don't think about it that way. We forget about the actual paycheck and what that goes to and how much that actually matters sometimes.
Right. Absolutely. You talk a lot about 4 steps to success.
Yes.
I know you said that's sort of the first step. Can you walk me through that?
Absolutely. I would love to. So I've developed a 4-step process. The first step is yourself, because guess what? We can't get anywhere unless you know exactly what you're looking for. So what I work and coach women on in that step is really about how do we figure out what you truly value? Because guess what I hear all the time? It's like, I want to raise great children and, a wonderful marriage if somebody's married, and, health and fitness, all of that. And to me, that's still surface level. And we get to what underneath the hood really matters to you. So I'll give you an example. For us in our home, when we did this, the number one thing is peace in the home. Okay. Because I have two boys, they're very rowdy and they are all over the place. So for me and my partner, the biggest thing is how do we create more peace at home? Because that's what we're looking for in this stage of life. One of the other things is really about, again, just being outside. I get the privilege of living in Southern California, and I want to be able to take advantage of that. And with that, how do we structure our weekends instead of birthday party and this and that and to just be able to wake up and be like, what hike should we go to? Where could we get out today? What does it look like? And making sure that that's a central part of us and our family. And guess what? Those are things we all enjoy. It doesn't have to just be about, oh, well, the kids really love soccer or they really love dance. So now our whole world needs to be surrounded on dance practice and soccer practice and all that. There's so many creative ways to, again, have both. You can carpool. You can have a grandparent that's dying to spend time with them. There's friends. There's so many different ways that you can structure it. So that way, if that is something that's central to your child's life, that they're still able to participate, but that doesn't take away from you. Like for me, when I go to my kids' basketball practice, I'm not gonna lie, I don't love sitting there in the gym and watching them play. I'm not gonna lie. Like I hardly even go to the games. It's like way too much going on for me. But instead, guess what? I can put on my AirPods and walk around outside while he's playing in the gym. How many people just sit there on their phone just waiting for the practice to be done? You don't have to.
It's funny, when we first started Happy Camper Live, one of the things we talk about is our, who's our audience. And one of our targeted audiences we describe as the carpool mom, because when your kids are little, you feel this pressure to like expose them to all these things. So when I was a kid, I learned to paint, I did figure skating, I did dance, I did this, until I found something that I really loved, which at the time was figure skating and then acting. Like that was sort of my thing. And we talked about this carpool mom who the kid signs up for martial arts and then they want to try this and try that. So Happy Camper Live is sort of this built-in like way to figure out what your kid's passion is. So you can literally like have your kid get exposed to magic and soccer and baseball and, oh, okay, great, I love it. And then they take it from there. So I've saved carpool moms tons and tons of time by creating Happy Camper Live.
I love you for it. I love you for it. Absolutely. We need more of that because that's the thing. We have the societal pressure or this Facebook, Instagram pressure of seeing others like, oh, they're doing this. Their kids speaking 3 languages and they're just 2 years old. And I'm like, that's great. But guess what? They're giving something up as a result of that. Right. So are you willing to give something up for that? And guess what? If the answer is yes, because you want your child to speak 3 languages, amazing. I'm not going to tell you you should do something different. I just want to make sure that you feel good about it. That's all.
When you talk about self, so the first step is self, and you said when we first started doing this in your home, we figured out our priorities. So, I know that, you walk people through the process, but for sort of the general population listening now, like, how do you get to that? Like, what's the brainstorming look like? When maybe even you're starting when your kid already is a travel soccer kid and you're already kind of like knee deep in that. How do you figure out, all right, this is what's important? Is it a whole family conversation? Is it, how does that go?
Absolutely. So here's the thing that I truly believe. I believe we do know what we want. We just may not be able to really say it or afraid to really say it. So one of the things is really just what I call a brain dump in a way, which is just put a timer. And the reason I say put a 5-minute timer is because guess what? If we just sit there like, oh, maybe I want this, maybe not. If we have like a timer, we're able to just put things down without giving it too much thought. Because when we give it too much thought, then we start making it too complicated. And then we start, oh, I can't do that, or I can't do this.
Right. Instead, you find the reasons why you can't.
Yes. But instead, that's not the point of this. The point of this, get everything down. What is it that you want? What is it? Just simple questions. What would you want your life at home to look like? What do you wish you had more time for? What do you want your family to remember 20 years from now?
That's
One of the
great.
things that makes our list is philanthropy and giving back. Why? Because that is something really central to who I am. And that's something that I want my kids to be ingrained with. But that actually takes action. That's not just the send a check and that's it, and nobody sees it. That takes action. That takes effort. So again, what are some of those things that are hiding underneath the, I just want my family to be healthy and happy, right? Like, what is it that works for you? What is just in the back of it? Like, if you had a whole day free, another question, if you had a whole weekend free, and there was no obligations, what would you want to be doing with your family? What would you want that time to look like? Not just what they enjoy, not just what you enjoy, but what is it that you feel like really creates strong family bonding as well? So some of those questions in a brain dump work really, really well. And then I do encourage women, if they have a partner in the home, to ask them to do the same and compare the lists afterwards. Because guess what? Some things are going to show up for them, and it's a great conversation. Just be like, wow, I didn't realize like that was such a bigger priority. Like, I will tell you, for my partner, academics is a priority. That is not making my list in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Nope. But guess what? That also means he understands that I'm not going to sit there for like 2 hours to have my kids study before a test. I'm like, oh, it's late, you go to bed. Like, you know what? It's a test. He will. So if that's something that's a priority for him, he can sit there. If he's not home, I'm not going to sit there, because that's not a priority for me, and having that mutual conversation and understanding. So it's a great exercise. And then when you do that, you see what's aligned, you see the similarities, and come up with like your top 8 to 10. Don't do more. This isn't supposed to be an never-ending list. Top 8 to 10. And what we do is we have it on our fridge. We have it on our fridge because guess what? You open the fridge 20 million times and it's boom, right there. That's the only thing on our fridge. And guess what? One of our things is travel, and we really enjoy long-term travel. So when we do that, we take it and we put it on the fridge wherever we are, because we usually stay for a while there. And that's there to just, it goes everywhere with
that's
us.
great. That's great.
And the thing about it is, guess what happens when you have this list? It really becomes almost like a compass for you of where you're going. Because now when you have all of these decisions to make, should we do this? Should we sign them up for another karate class? Or should we this, that? You go back. Does it make your list? That's what I always say. Go back. Does it make your list? If it doesn't make your list, that doesn't mean that it's quote unquote not important. It just means it doesn't make your list at this time. And your list may change. Things happen, all of that, 100%. But right now, if it doesn't make your list, it's an easy no. And that way you simplify your life. That's such a key thing. How do we have less, but do more? And that's one of the ways that I try to really guide someone along, to have less, but do more.
You know, it's interesting, as you were talking about the list changing too, I have 26-year-old, 21-year-old, family time still important to me. And I'm still a working mom. During the summers, I'm not even around. My college student, like, I can't even see him. It's like 9 weeks of being away. And so I do think there are certain ages and stages where you have to kind of revisit that, and what's important when you have, preschoolers and toddlers, and then how do you navigate when your kids do start getting involved in activities, and then the stage of, sort of the middle school, high schooler, when they don't want to spend that much time with you, and you're like, oh, we have a whole weekend, and they're like, yeah, that's nice, I'm going out with my friends, and then you're just like, so how do you make those specific meaningful times, so I definitely see, different ages and stages that you have to adjust that. And I love the way you talked about the partners sort of going off on their own and then comparing notes, because without that voice, sometimes I think, you just kind of get driven by maybe one or the other, whoever's maybe stronger. But like you said, like your partner being really into academics, and, you might know that, but unless they say, this is really a priority for me, then you may not realize like they're willing to fight for that as being on the list of 8, So I get that.
So that covers self. And
Yep.
then really the next step is home. And when I talk about home, it's kind of two parts. So one is, who are you in the home? Do you like, who are you when no one else is around, right? Like we kind of have this like almost face we put on when people are over or we're out at work or whatever it is. But who are you when you come home? Do you feel like you can genuinely be who you want to be? Do you feel like you're just constantly yelling? Do you feel like when you walk in the door, it's a second shift of work versus walking in the home and thinking like, I'm home. I want women to walk in and feel like their home is their sanctuary. And again, there could be a variety of reasons for it. And one is just could be the fact that it's just a pattern. We kind of get into these patterns of, like, I got to be the drill sergeant. I got to be the one that like make sure like dinner's on the table. This happens and this happens and this happens. And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, kids and you will always need to eat. Laundry will always need to get done. I get it. And I'm not trying to like create a world where none of that happens. Life, again, this is what I talk about all the time, is like life is still going to happen. It's just how do we make it easier for you? So what is happening in your home? So that's where a little bit of the routine comes in as well. So if you are the one that's, whether you have a partner or not in the home, you're the one that's kind of in charge of dinner every night, right? Well, if you're a person that enjoys cooking, amazing. But if maybe you're someone that doesn't, then let's talk about what does that look like for you, okay? So what are you okay with? Because that's the biggest thing. Someone may be okay with takeout once a week. Someone may be okay with takeout 3 times a week. Someone may be okay with like a Trader Joe's frozen meal once a week, and someone may not. That's what I want to kind of better understand of like, what is kind of someone's pain point? Because there's always like either the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry. There's some kind of pain point at home of where they're like, this is too much. I hate it. I hate it. I hate
Homework.
it. Yes. Right. So
That's
again, what are you okay with? Are you okay with, homework gets done no matter at what cost? Are you okay with, 2 hours? That's if whatever's done in 2 hours is done. Are you okay with, they're going to be in the after school program, if there's an after school program and they do it there? Like there's so many different ways to kind of look at it. Because what happens is we're so reactive. And then it's like 9 o'clock, the homework's not done. We're like, why isn't this done? How did this happen? Right? Because maybe we didn't set the rules in the beginning, or maybe we also didn't create the container of what we're okay with in our own household. For somebody, it may be that, if it's your responsibility, you're in middle school, you're in high school, if you don't get homework done, that's totally on you. For somebody else, it may be that no, like this is a priority. This is one of our values. And it goes back to, so guess what? If you don't, then you don't get to play an X game or, be part of this activity. Or maybe their rule is that they have to have homework done before going to that like soccer activity or whatever it may be. It's just what feels good for you that you really can stick to. Because the thing is, the last thing we want is like this Vegas style of parenting where it's like a slot machine. Sometimes like you put the quarter in and you hit bingo and, the parent's happy. And then sometimes you do the exact same thing. You put the quarter in and then the parent's like yelling at you. So it's like, we don't want our kids to feel like, what am I going to get today? Am I going to hit the jackpot or be able to get away with something? Or am I going to get grounded the second I open my mouth and say, Mom,
Right. Well, it's so interesting because you talk about how it feels for you to walk in and, I'm thinking about raising a happy camper and they're getting the effect of whatever that is. The kids are getting that effect. So, you really do need to decide what you want for yourself and what it feels like as a whole in the home, so that if you want to be happy, you want your kids to be happy. I use that term very loosely. But if you want that, you need to be intentional, is what you're saying, and have a plan for the parts of the home life that you struggle with, or that you're, just are making you come in with an attitude that is, going to poorly affect everybody else. So I think trying to address that and figure that out is really smart. It's really challenging. Everybody has their different things. Like you're like homework, food. laundry. I'm like, yeah, I'm okay as long as I don't, like my meal prep is like minimal. And I'm like, it's okay. Like there are a lot of other things I'm really good at, and homework. I believe kids do their homework. And the more you just be around if they need you, but you're not at the table with them, is like a much healthier way. But then there's kids that need that one-on-one because they need the guidance. They can't get through their homework without that support. So I think figuring that out for yourself as step 2, and just how you want to walk in the house it's just really important. So that's a great step. I got that one.
And then we get to move on to step 3. So we kind of get deeper and deeper,
Mm-hmm.
and step 3 is really the relationships that you have at home. Okay. Because
Mm-hmm.
guess what? We're not the only ones living in the home.
True.
And normally what I see is that the woman is still taking on the majority of the caregiving roles. So whether it's the schedule, whether it's it's someone's birthday party and you need to buy a present, or something for the school volunteering, or this or that, or blah, 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 or the chores that we talk about, the cooking, the cleaning, all of it, right? So usually I do see some imbalance in the home. And usually I work with women that do have a partner in the home. And one of the things I usually say is that I truly believe it's not that they don't want to do it, they don't know how to help. Because I've seen a lot of times women say, well, he's tried it, it didn't work. Or I've tried to tell him to take out the garbage and he still doesn't take out the garbage. I don't know why, but garbage always seems to come up. I don't know why. Such a trigger. And, my biggest advice in that is also, like, again, we already went through the values, so we know what's important. We already went through what you want your home life to look like when you walk in, all of that. So now it's like getting in a little bit deeper and saying, okay, but who's going to take on what part of that?
Right.
So really, if you have older children in the home, you want to start getting them involved. If you have a partner in the home, maybe they've been involved in maybe here and there, but not in a consistent way. So kind of the process that I work through that is first understanding, what do people believe is happening in the home? Because guess what? If you come at it and you're like, I need more help, and they're like, what? I think everything's fine. I feel like I'm contributing 50%. Right. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, you contribute like 5%, So first is what I call gathering information. So you really just figure out, with whether it's your partner or if you have older kids, involve them, obviously, like, who do you think does the majority? What does that look like? Do you think that it's a healthy balance? Like, just kind of questions like that to really uncover what they think. And again, this is just to gather the information.
Right.
And the biggest thing I tell women here is, it's just to gather, no opinion, okay? Because what happens is then their defensiveness comes up, and that's not the goal. Our goal is not to like parade or anything. Gather the information. Next step would be is to have a conversation about it at a different time and say, you know what, this is something that I'm finding important. Can we have a family meeting about this? Or if it's just with your partner because you have younger kids, then could we just talk one-on-one about this? And then have a conversation at that separate time where you come to the table and you really kind of talk about, like, hey, I heard you on this. I really thought about it. And this is what it looks like to me. And these are the kind of things I would love some more assistance on. And here's the biggest piece of that whole part really working is the fact that if you're asking them to take something on, whether it's a child or a partner, the biggest thing I always tell people is that make sure that it's something you can actually let go of. Okay? Right. Because what happens is that, I want them to take out the trash. I want them to take out I want to unload the dishwasher. And obviously they need to unload the dishwasher, and they're like, okay, I can unload the dishwasher. But then, we have plates in the sink, and they start to pile up, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need the dishwasher. Like, I need to put the plates. It's too high, like high emotion is kind of how I call it for you. Don't pick that. Okay. Think like getting the mail, like mowing the lawn, something that like is so not a trigger for you, because the thing is, we're so involved. These are people that are like the most important people in our lives. We share a home with them. Okay. So we want to make sure to treat them with respect. And we want to set them up for success. This is kind of how I talk about it. We want to set them up for success. But just like if you walked your first day on the job somewhere, no one gives you the most important client, right away. They give you like a client just to see how you're doing and work your way up to that. Okay. So it's the same thing if you're starting in the home, even if you've been married 10 years, 15 years, it doesn't matter. This is a new experience. So that's what I really say is have that conversation and pick 3 things. If they can't think of something like, I don't know, I feel like I do good at home. Like, I feel like we got a handle. And you're like, no, that's not reality. Pick something, 3 things max of what you can actually have them take on and have them be able to do it in their way. So that way that you see the success from it. And then you can move on and have more conversations later down the line about taking on more and more. Because then what happens is that you start to kind of let go because you start to trust because they did something else, then they followed through on it. And then you kind of work your way up. But don't start at the like high emotion trigger things that I see happen all the time. It's like, well, I need help with laundry. It's like, that's great. I 100% believe you need help with laundry, but it's just going to frustrate you so much more that it doesn't get done the way you want it to. And then it'll just end up crash and burning.
I could see women, though, who aren't used to asking for help, who also think, I'm not supposed to ask for help. So, I'm supposed to be able to do all this. And like really forcing yourself to say, like, I think my success in life is because I'm a great delegator. That's honestly of everything that I do well, and I do a lot of great things. I know how to delegate and I'm not afraid to delegate. And I don't think there's something wrong because I'm delegating, that it means something less of me. And I don't think I could have done all the things that I've done in my life without being really good at it. But a lot of people think, well, no, I'm supposed to be doing all this at work and I'm supposed to do this at home. And because I'm, giving it away, it means something less of me. So I bet you kind of hear a little bit about that when you're coaching through this.
I do. And, one of the things I really talk about with that is why? What is it? And where is the unbalance? Because it's usually not everything at home. It's usually something particular. It's usually like the cooking or something more of where it's like, but if I don't make the meals, then, how are they going to remember the family time and like all of this kind of like uncovering. That's why I love coaching, because you get this like outside perspective, whether it's me or someone else that just comes in and is like, okay, but why? What's really happening? What out of that do you feel most guilty about? Let's start there. What out of it, Is it that you feel guilty that your child is being picked up by somebody else and taken home because you have a long work day, right? And you feel like you're not able to spend that time with them. But what does that time actually look like? And what do you, in reality, spend your time doing? Because even if you say, you know what, I feel guilty asking somebody for help, then I say, okay, keep a journal for like a week. Just start with like a week and see where your time actually goes and how much time you're actually spending with your children. Because if you're saying, I feel guilty because I really need to spend time with my children, in reality, you're spending a lot more time cleaning the home, doing other things that isn't necessarily that actual one-on-one time with your children. So then we go back and say, if that is really what you're most concerned about, how do we increase that? But in order to increase that, something else has to get off of that place. So where do you feel comfortable with at this time to just try? And that's how I always frame it. Like, let's just try. We can always go back. But then when you start to get used to things, then you feel more comfortable with it as well.
Right. Well, you definitely feel the benefits, even one thing off your plate. You were talking about to-do lists, and I made this like promise to myself the other day. It was like about 6 weeks ago. I said, I'm not adding anything to my to-do list without taking 2 things off. Because I'm like this endless to-do list. I'm like, that was it. I'm like, this is magic. I'm not adding. I got to take 2 off. So it's kind of the same thing. The delegating.
You're always going to have a to-do list. And, that's kind of step 4, which is like the habits, which is you're always going to have things going on. You're always going to have something pop up. I hear people constantly, let me just get through the holiday season. Let me just get through the back to school season. Let me just get through the summer camp season, or let me just prep for this. And I'm like, It's always going to happen. Like, this is what I'm sure you said a year ago and 2 years ago and however long. My goal is, how do you have more things you actually enjoy on your to-do list? That's what I really want us to kind of shift our thinking and move towards, because then to me, that's living really your life on purpose. And if you're really living your life on purpose, then you're a much happier human being. Your family feels that as well. And then all of you really benefit as a result.
Yeah. So what is sort of an example of habit?
Yes. So one of my favorite examples that I try to, especially women that may not be used to doing things for themselves, is one easy trick, not like a trick, but a habit. One easy thing that I usually tell people is pick 1 hour within the next week, like 1 hour. So whether it's like 3 p.m. on Wednesday, I don't care, 5 a.m. on Tuesday, whatever it is, I want you to block out 1 hour. Ideally, block out 1 hour for the next 4 weeks, but let's just start with 1 week. Okay. Baby steps here. And what I want you to do is also come up with basically 3 to 5 things you would like to do for yourself. And it can be within that hour. So maybe somebody likes yoga. Maybe somebody likes running. Maybe somebody likes baking. Maybe somebody likes to just take a nap. It doesn't matter what those things are. But the thing is, the reason I talk about it in that way is because when that hour comes, that's when I want you to look at that list, because one, I don't want you to get tangled into, okay, I have this hour. What do I do with it? Maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to do that. No, you have your like 3 to 5 things. You pick one of those and you do it. And here's the thing. Most of the time people say, I want to do yoga. And the coach is like, cool. When can you go to the yoga studio? Or when can you do this? But where I start from is this idea that we're not robots, because maybe you love to do yoga, but maybe every Tuesday at 2:00, you're not going to be excited to do yoga. But instead of not doing something for yourself, instead, I want you to still have that hour locked down. And that way you have different options. Maybe 1 week it's to call a friend because you're just like in the mood of just like, I'm down. I just need to talk to somebody. Maybe one other week it is to do yoga, or maybe one other week it's to bake, whatever it is. The whole idea here is getting in the rhythm. Okay. Getting in the rhythm of something and having time blocked out for it as well. Instead of just saying, here's one thing and only this thing, it's just opening yourself up to different possibilities. Because again, like we talked about the balance in the beginning, life is just not that perfect and easy. There's things that come up. So you're going to need, but having that hour allows you to focus on yourself in a kind of like a less triggering and easier way for you to do that. And if that works, great. You can also add another hour, whether it's that day or another day. And before you know it, within 6 months, you can have 3 different times if you want. Again, if it's something you're looking for, where you have scheduled out. And those are the times that really are there for you.
Yeah, it's so proactive. And I think sometimes, a mom might see themselves just, oh my gosh, everybody's out of the house. They all went here. And it's like, ooh, what do I do? But like, that's a reactive time, and it's not proactive. And, I kind of do that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just gained an hour of like, everybody's busy and happy and they don't need me right now. And then, but I don't sort of have that as a scheduled thing. And as, and here are the things I want to do. And that shows, maybe it shows up. And then when it's scheduled, and then when it shows up, it's like, oh my gosh, let me go over my list. Here are the things. So I love the thoughtfulness that's going into each and every step. I mean, I certainly think that this would have made a huge difference to me. And, but, we all get through, motherhood and parenthood. And, I do think there are very specific challenges of being a working parent. And if we have, like you're suggesting, and coaching people to have, through these different steps, it's so much more thoughtful and proactive, and, can make a real difference in getting what it is that you want. And that's just what you started with, is what are your values? What is the experience you want to have for your family? What do you want it to be for you? And I agree. It probably will open up so much more time because you're being so much more intentional.
Exactly. Because again, I just feel like we as women, especially as working moms, are just so reactive. And we've gotten into the cycle of like, just go, 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 go. And then it's like, where did the year go? Where did the month go? Where did the week go? And I want to make sure women are in the driver's seat. I want to make sure that we're not just waiting till the kids are older to do X, Y, Z either, because guess what? Something else is going to come up when you're older. There's always something. So instead, how do we actually just start living life on purpose?
Yeah. It's interesting because working with kids, I'm always thinking about what we model as parents. It's so important, and who they become as, they mature into adults, and being able to help them at a very young age set values for themselves. And all of the things that you're talking about, you are involving your family. And the more you share what you are doing with them, so that when you have your time and it's your hour and you are saying to your family, hey, it's my hour, I'm going to yoga, or I'm going to go read a book, or I'm going to take a bath, or whatever it is, you're showing your kids that self-care is important, and, values are important, how you prioritize things, how you have relationship with other people is important. And that's going to make them, great adults. And to me, anytime we can model that, we work with camp counselors in their 20s, and, they're the role models for the kids. And, we've lost a lot of structure, and everything is reactionary. We can get into a whole phone conversation and social media conversation, but this feels like a real step back. It is so purposeful and so meaningful. And the lessons that the kids can learn from a parent who is doing this is that's going to make a real impact on their life. It really is. So,
and I'll also leave you with that in terms of camp. And when we're talking about campers, is really like, especially when kids go to sleepaway camp or even day camp, they come home and they're so excited about it. They had the best time, especially if they go to sleepaway camp. It's like life-changing for them. It's such a beautiful memory. What I want to challenge women or parents that are listening to think about, how do we make that last? Find out exactly what is it about that experience they enjoyed the most. Because you may be surprised to hear what they say, and how can you incorporate that into your family as well? Because maybe it was the first time they got to, I don't know, like not hike, but I don't know, do something outdoorsy, or maybe it was the idea that there's tradition in some of the things that they were doing. Like, have those conversations. When you see your child has a wonderful experience, how do you have more of that? You can do a mock camp at your own home, for a weekend. You can there's so many different ways to kind of think about it, and thinking like, wow, that was a great experience. Is that something that all of us can maybe do? Like, maybe you did bow and arrow. I don't know, just throwing something random out there, like, cool, maybe that's something your family can do, or you don't even have to do the activity, but just like the spirit of it as well. Right? So how do we kind of take those experiences, whether our children or whether we have them, because we also have great experience. I hope we have some, at least, great experiences, and how do we have more of them, and how do we make them last longer?
Yeah. It's interesting. We do a lot with counselors and staff training. And as you're talking, I'm like, this is a great exercise for a co-counselor for sleepaway camp, right? You're going to sit down, you're going to talk about what you value. You're going to talk about what you want it to feel like when you walk into the cabin with the kids. And what is the relationship that you want in terms of like chores, because they're the kids and we have job wheels and responsibilities, and how do you get that done in a peaceful way? And each kid is supposed to, we were just talking about, how do you do the cleanup? It's a big deal when 10 kids and, counselors are living together. And also, like, what do you do, counselor, for yourself so that you can survive 24 hours, 7 days a week as a, what do you do on your staff time off? So I think it's really applicable in that regard as well. And also, I don't know, I always look at different applications, and I know your focus is on parents, and I'm just thinking college students, they get to school and without having learned these skills, they're really in a place of like, they're lost. And I don't know how many college students you've worked with, but they get freshman year and they're like, they don't know what to do with their time. They don't know how to get their stuff done. They're used to all the structure at home. And so all of these things like really take you along the way to learning, and will, continue to pay it forward if you do this as a parent.
Yes, especially the step through relationships. When you're able to kind of let go of some of the things that are happening in your home and other people take that on, they feel independent, they feel like they're doing something, and then it creates more space in that way and individuality as well. Because that's the thing, we're not here to make clones of ourselves for our kids. I hope not anyway,
For
because
sure.
even if we tried, I don't think we can. Okay, let's be honest. Even if we tried, I don't think we can, So especially if we think about the longevity in terms of our kids going to college, in terms of our kids being young adults, how can we model that here? How can we have them take on some of those and feel good about it? That's the other part. Feel good about it.
Yeah. Well, you are terrific, Sasha. I think there is so much to learn as a parent. And like I said, I think there's a lot of different aspects to your work. And I would love to talk again if we could arrange something. And you just have so much so much support to give. And again, I wish I had met you many years ago, but this is our time. And this is when the universe brought us together. And I think it's really to help other parents be successful and feel feel happy, right? So I want to thank you, Sasha. Anything else that you want to add before we end?
I just want to add, if this resonates with you and you're a working mom, feel free to come on down to my website of sashaxhome.com, and you can download the 5 steps to coming home happy after work for free today, or join my Facebook group where I give tips and go live and all of those things. I'd love for you to stay in touch and be a part of the community.
All right. So Sasha, we did 4 steps. Now you said there are 5 steps. So are there 5 steps?
No, that's just the 5 steps to coming home happy after work.
Oh,
it's a
okay.
download that you can get today.
Oh, the 5 steps to coming home happy. Got it. All right. So I just want to make sure we weren't missing something because I thought we had 4, but I love how you break things down and make it so easy for people to understand. You're just awesome. So again, thank you for being with the Raising a Happy Camper podcast. Here at Happy Camper Live. And please visit sashaxhome.com. I visited the site. It's fantastic. And again, I wish I had the opportunity to work with you, but we will find some way to work together, I think, in the future. So thanks again, Sasha.
Absolutely. Thank you, Allison. It's been a pleasure, honestly.
Take a moment to shine.